I was looking through my phone the other day, just um, scrolling through photos from the last year.
Hmm.
And it's funny because it tells a very specific story. You see the birthdays, you see the first day of school.
The highlight reel.
Totally. You see the vacation to the beach where everyone is smiling or, at least for the split second, the shutter clicked. It's this perfectly curated thing.
It's the director's cut of your life. All the slow, boring parts are just edited out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we measure our lives,
Yeah.
especially parenting, by these milestones, the graduations, the big crises, the holidays.
Yeah.
But as I was scrolling, I had this realization, and it's kind of the universal paradox we're digging into today,
Yeah.
the actual substance of my life, the
Yeah.
real weight of it. It isn't in those photos.
No.
It's in the blur. It's in all the days that I have completely forgotten.
That is such a profound disconnect, isn't it? I mean, we live in one reality, the day-to-day grind, but we measure our value and our memories by a completely different metric.
Completely. And that disconnect is exactly what we are exploring today. We're looking at a standalone essay that I honestly think should be required reading for anyone who takes care of another human being.
I agree.
It's called Ordinary Days, written by the philosopher and writer Pedro Malha.
It's a beautiful piece of writing, and what I love about his approach is that he isn't trying to sell you anything. This isn't a how-to guide.
Right. The 7 easy steps.
No, he's not telling you how to get your kid to sleep or eat their broccoli. He's doing something more like phenomenology. He's just trying to describe the texture of time itself when you are deep in the trenches.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We want to make the invisible visible. We want to unpack the architecture of these forgettable days. Why do they feel so heavy? Why does time behave so strangely inside them? And this is the big one. Why do they matter more than the stuff we actually remember?
It's a heavy topic, but I think it's ultimately a hopeful one. Malha's core argument is that we tend to treat the routine, the boring stuff, as just the waiting room for the good parts of life.
Yeah, the filler.
But he argues the exact opposite. The routine is the good stuff. Or at least, it's the essential substance of care.
So let's start by defining our terms, because ordinary sounds, well, it sounds a bit bland, a bit beige. But Malha is very specific about what an ordinary day is.
He is. He defines it by what it lacks. He says an ordinary day is a day that begins without anticipation and ends without summary.
Oof. Ends without summary. That line just, it really stopped me in my tracks. It's so accurate, it hurts.
It really is. I mean, think about the structure of a memorable day. You have a big presentation, or you're leaving for a trip, or the car breaks down. There's a story there.
A narrative arc.
Exactly. There's a conflict and a resolution. You can come home and tell your partner, you won't believe what happened today.
Right. But on an ordinary day, you walk through the door, someone asks, how was your day? And your mind just goes blank. You're like, hi. I don't know.
Exactly, because the honest answer is, I kept everyone alive, or I moved objects from one room to another and then I moved them back.
It's the definition of unnewsworthy. And Malha points out that these days carry no milestones and no crisis. They just repeat. And because they lack those spikes on the graph, they just blur together into this gray static. But, and this is the crucial contradiction he highlights, just because they are empty of events doesn't mean they are empty.
No, in fact, they're the opposite. That's the paradox. He describes them as being jam-packed with movement, sound, interruption. It's a sensory overload.
Yeah.
You're finding the lost socks, you're making the sandwich, you're breaking up the fight, you're wiping the counter. It is nonstop action, but it doesn't feel like action in the, cinematic sense.
He has this phrase that I wrote down. The messes that return shortly after being cleared.
Oh, yes.
I felt that in my soul.
Yeah. It captures a very specific type of psychological weight, doesn't it? It's not just that you're cleaning, it's the futility of it.
The futility, that's the word. You wipe the table, turn around, and when you turn back, there are crumbs again.
You put the toys in the bin, and 10 minutes later, the bin is dumped out on the floor.
It's Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill, but the boulder is made of laundry and Lego bricks.
That's a perfect image. But Mala's point is that because these tasks seem too small to matter, we don't register them as achievements.
Right.
They don't announce themselves as important. There is no ceremony when you successfully navigate a tantrum in the early morning.
And that leads to this weird feeling where you feel like you've done nothing, but you are physically and mentally exhausted.
Yes. It's the difference between nothing happened and nothing changed. Mahler writes that parenting unfolds in these unmarked hours.
Unmarked hours. I like that.
It's not that the day didn't matter. It's that nothing in the day stood up and said, hey, remember me.
Which brings us to one of the trippiest parts of this essay,
Yeah.
the way he talks about time. Because anyone who has looked after kids, especially young kids, knows that time just, it breaks.
It really does.
It stops working the way physics says it should.
It absolutely distorts. Mala talks about this uneven perception of time. It stretches and compresses, sort of at the same time.
We've all heard the cliche, the days are long, but the years are short. But he digs a bit deeper than the bumper sticker slogan here.
He does. He frames it as a feature, not a flaw, of what he calls lived parenting time.
A feature, not a flaw.
Okay. When you are in the thick of an ordinary day, your attention is consumed by the immediate, the now, the spill, the diaper, the nap schedule.
You're in the weeds. You can't be thinking about the 5-year plan when there is a sharp object in a toddler's hand.
Precisely. And when your focus is that microscopic, a single hour can feel endless. You look at the clock thinking it must be late afternoon and it's still mid-morning.
Oh, that feeling.
But at the same time, because your head is down dealing with the immediate, the broader passage of time, the weeks, the months, it all just slips by in the background, completely unnoticed.
That explains that vertigo you feel when you look at a photo from 6 months ago and go, wait, when did that happen? I was there, but I don't remember being there.
Exactly. And Mala makes a really insightful point about reflection. He says, you can't really reflect on ordinary days while you are inside them.
You're too busy surviving them to analyze them.
Right. You're just experiencing them moment by moment. The reflection, that comes later. It's only when the conditions change, the kids are in school or they move out, that the shape of those days becomes visible.
So while you live them, they feel endless. But once they're gone, they feel brief.
Exactly that.
That is terrifying. And also comforting. I don't know, it makes me realize why we feel so stuck in the loop.
The loop.
And speaking of loops, let's unpack that repetitive structure he talks about. Because that repetition is relentless.
It is. Meals return. Needs resurface. Questions repeat. The loop is the architecture of the day.
But here's where it gets really interesting from like a psychological perspective. As adults, our brains crave progress. We want a narrative arc.
We want to check the box.
Yes. Give me the dopamine hit of the checkbox.
We are addicted to the checked box. But ordinary days refuse to give us that. The day just resets every morning no matter how hard you worked the day before.
He calls it the quiet strain. That feeling of being caught in a loop where nothing is ever truly completed.
Yes.
So if it feels like drudgery to us, what is the point of it? I mean, why is this system built this way? Is nature just trying to annoy us?
It can feel that way. But this is Mala's critical insight. The repetition isn't for you.
Okay.
It's for the child. He says this repetition is how children are held in time.
Held in time. That's such a beautiful phrase. What does that mean, practically?
Well, think about it from the child's perspective. Everything is new. The world is chaotic and overwhelming. Lights, sounds, big emotions they don't get yet. How do they learn to trust this world? It's not through big, exciting vacations. That's just more chaos. They learn to trust through the rhythm.
The predictability.
Exactly. The fact that lunch happens when the sun is high. The fact that you are there when they wake up in the early hours. The fact that the bath happens before bed.
So stability isn't created by novelty. It's created by the boring stuff.
Precisely. Stability is created by the reliable return of care. What feels like monotonous drudgery to the adult reading the same book for the 100th time is exactly what allows the child to rest.
Because they can predict what's coming next.
It lets them predict the world, which makes them feel safe enough to grow.
So there's a massive divergence in experience. The parent is bored or frustrated by the loop, feeling stuck in Groundhog Day.
But the child is literally being built by it. Trust is built without words. It's built through the rhythm of morning and evening. The child just absorbs that consistency.
Okay, so we know it's important for them. But we can't ignore what it does to the parent. Mala doesn't shy away from the emotional toll of this. He talks about a particular kind of fear that lives in these days.
This resonated so deeply with me. He describes a low-level vigilance. It's not panic. It's not the adrenaline of a car crash. It's more like a background process running in your brain, constantly asking, is everyone safe? Is everything covered? What did I miss?
It's like having 50 tabs open in your browser, even if you're only looking at one. The whole computer is slowing down because the RAM is used up.
That's a great analogy. And the thing is, this vigilance doesn't switch off. Not easily. Even late at night, when everyone is asleep, part of your brain is still scanning. And that is so exhausting.
It's the mental load we hear about, But he frames it almost as a protective instinct that becomes a burden.
A burden of continuity. It's the weight of showing up again. It's not heroic. You don't get a medal for making sure the toddler didn't eat a marble,
No.
but it requires the steadiness that just drains you.
And because it's not heroic, because nobody sees it, Mala talks about this risk of erasure.
Yes, this is the danger zone. When ordinary days go unrecognized, the repetition starts to feel like erasure rather than care.
You feel like your life is just disappearing into the routine.
The self can feel thinned out. I think that was the phrase he used. Like, you're being spread so thin over so many tiny tasks that you lose track of where you end and the parent begins.
And that leads to resentment.
Yeah.
Not because you don't love your kids, but because as humans, we need acknowledgement.
We need to feel like our effort is landing somewhere. And when there's no feedback loop, just more laundry, it creates a sense of being trapped.
And he insists on this. It's not a failure of attitude.
No, it's a structural feature of long-term care. And I think that's so important to hear. It's not that you're a bad parent for feeling bored or resentful. It's that the job is structurally set up to make you feel that way.
Exactly. And just acknowledging that helps.
It does.
Let's pivot a bit to love. Because in the movies, love is the big speech. It's running through the airport. But in an ordinary day, love looks, well, kind of boring.
Practical. He calls it practical love. It's woven into action.
Okay.
Love in an ordinary day looks like giving attention when you really just want to withdraw and look at your phone. It looks like patience repeated after you've already used up your reserve for the day.
It's love that doesn't feel like love. It feels like work.
And often there is no clear boundary between the love and the labor. You make the sandwich because they need to eat. Is that love? Is that a chore? It's both.
And because we're tired and because we're human, these are also the days where we screw up. Mala's really honest about that.
Right, appreciated that. He says ordinary days are where mistakes happen most often. Not because we're bad people, but because fatigue just accumulates.
Yep.
Sharp words, misjudgments born of exhaustion.
But, and here's the flip side, it's also where the repair happens.
Yes. The quiet repair. The apology offered in passing. The hug in the kitchen. Just as the damage is often small and cumulative, the repair is small and cumulative too.
Now, before we get to the reframing, we have to touch on something crucial he mentions. We can't talk about this as if it's the same for everyone.
Absolutely not. Ordinary days are not neutral. They are shaped by conditions.
Yeah.
The weight of an ordinary day is vastly different if you are dealing with financial pressure or illness or if you're doing it entirely alone.
Right. The loop is a lot harder to handle if you don't know if you can afford the groceries for the next loop.
Exactly. What is manageable for one person is overwhelming for another. And we have to acknowledge that inequality. The essay is very clear that the ordinary is a privilege for some and a survival test for others.
So we've defined the day. We've acknowledged the struggle, the weird time bending, the exhaustion. What do we do with this? How does he suggest we shift our perspective? Because he says seeing ordinary days clearly changes how they are held.
He does. And importantly, he doesn't say it makes the work less. The laundry is still there.
Right. It's not magic.
No.
Yeah.
But it removes the sense of futility. It removes that idea that nothing is happening.
Right. When you understand that the ordinary day is not the backdrop to parenting, but the substance of it, everything shifts.
Yes. You stop waiting for the real life to start. You realize this is the life.
That these unremarkable hours are actually where the future is being built.
That's the core argument. The future is quietly taking shape in the habits formed right now. The way you speak to your child in the early morning, the way you handle a spill, those small ways of relating become their lasting patterns.
It puts the ordinary day at the center instead of on the margin.
Yes. And that brings a certain relief. Not a relief from effort, but a relief from the feeling that you're missing out. You aren't failing to live fully because you're at home in the evening folding clothes. That evening is where the work is.
There's a phrase Malha uses toward the end that really stuck with me. He talks about an ache, a low-level sense of loss.
Something is being given over. I think that's so profound. When we commit to these ordinary days, we are giving over parts of ourself, our time, our energy, and it's okay to mourn that a little bit.
It doesn't mean you don't love your kids.
No, it honors the cost of care. It's a real sacrifice. And acknowledging that ache makes it easier to carry. It validates that, yes, you gave something up to be here.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, where does this leave us? We have these days that are forgettable, repetitive, and exhausting.
And yet they are everything. Mala ends with this beautiful thought. Parenting doesn't happen in the memories we keep. It happens in the days we completely forget.
The days that leave no record.
Except they do leave a record. They leave traces. They leave traces in how our children move, how they trust, how they relate to the world. We are shaped by the days we don't remember.
That is, wow. It really changes how I'm going to look at my evening tonight.
It stops you from trying to make every moment magical. It just allows you to let them be ordinary.
And there is so much freedom in that.
There really is.
So, to you listening right now, maybe you're in the car, maybe you're folding that pile of laundry that never seems to end, maybe you're just navigating the chaos of the late afternoon. We hope this deep dive helps you see that ordinary day a little differently.
It remains an ordinary day, but hopefully it's no longer unseen.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Take care.